saw the legendary fin disappear into a magical doorway within the rock face here at the Giant's Causeway.
Imagine standing on the edge of the world, staring out at the North Atlantic, when something completely impossible unfolds before your eyes. That's exactly what happened earlier today at the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland, a place famed for its geometric basalt columns, formed millions of years ago in volcanic fire. Tourists and National Trust rangers reported a jaw-dropping sight. A massive stone, one of the ancient rocks forming the causeway, appeared to move. Not a few inches, not a crack that could be explained by erosion. A slab weighing nearly 20 tons slid open as if guided by some unseen hand, revealing an opening that should not exist. The person who captured this unbelievable moment was Marcus Whelan, a 34-year-old electrician from Dublin. He had flown his drone over the causeway just to get sunset footage of the famous hexagonal columns. He didn't expect to film a doorway to the impossible. In the footage, the stone slides outward smoothly, revealing a dark void behind it. 11 seconds later, it reseals perfectly, as though nothing had moved at all. At first, Marcus assumed it was a glitch, an optical illusion caused by the low sun and shadows stretching across the rocks. But experts disagree. Dr. Clara Brennan, a geologist who has studied the causeway for 15 years, reviewed the footage and responded within hours. She told Marcus his video either captures a very sophisticated hoax or something that defies all current understanding of geology. And if it's the latter, well, it's a discovery that could shake the foundations of what we know about this planet. Because here's the unsettling truth. The data gathered from that site after the sighting was so controversial that government authorities immediately restricted access. What they found behind that moving stone wasn't just strange, it was completely impossible. Inside a chamber sealed for tens of millions of years stood 7 figures, all over 6.5 feet tall, arranged in precise formation. And somehow, they radiated the exact body heat of living humans. But the story gets even more terrifying. When researchers returned just 4 days later, one of the figures had vanished. The remaining 6 weren't stationary either. They were slowly moving closer to the stone door, as if something had awakened inside this prehistoric chamber. No one could explain it. So here's the question that keeps every scientist awake at night. What lies beneath the hexagonal columns of the Giant's Causeway? Could we really be standing atop something alive, something ancient, and something beyond comprehension? This is not a legend, nor a trick of light. The evidence, the sonar scans, and the thermal readings all point to one chilling conclusion. We may not be alone, even in places we think we fully understand. The Giant's Causeway is a place that already feels otherworldly. Stretching along the rugged coast of Northern Ireland, it's a dramatic landscape of roughly 40,000 interlocking basalt columns, each perfectly hexagonal, formed when molten lava cooled 60 million years ago. From a distance, it looks like a chessboard left behind by some giant hand, or stepping stones across the turbulent North Atlantic. Tourists flock here every year, drawn by the geometry, the crashing waves, and the legends surrounding the site. Most people know the folklore of Finn McCool, the mythical Irish giant who supposedly built the causeway to cross to Scotland. They marvel at the symmetry of the rocks, the way each column fits snugly against the next, and they hop across the basalt steps, like kids exploring a natural playground. What almost no one realizes, though, is that one of these rocks isn't just a rock at all. Somewhere among the tens of thousands of columns lies a stone that isn't stationary, a stone that acts as a door, and a doorway to something impossible. Geologically, the causeway has been studied extensively for centuries. Every column, every crack, every fissure has been cataloged and analyzed. Volcanic activity, erosion patterns, basalt density, seismic history, everything about the formation has been mapped, measured, and explained. And yet, despite all the research, no survey has ever recorded anything like the hollow chamber now suspected behind that moving slab. Not a single hollow cavity of this size had been documented. Not one scientific report mentions a door hidden in plain sight. The first anomaly appeared almost by accident. Marcus Whelan's drone footage revealed a subtle, yet unmistakable shift in the rock formation, a movement completely inconsistent with normal geology. A slab, seemingly fused with the other basalt columns for 60 million years, had slid outward, exposing darkness. It was a void that should not exist, a hollow sealed chamber concealed behind solid volcanic rock. And that's when things began to unravel. The causeway that had always seemed frozen in time, predictable and safe, suddenly became the site of something that defied all logic. Every tourist stepping across those ancient stones was unknowingly walking above a secret that had been locked away for tens of millions of years. Every legend they'd heard, every story of giants and mythical bridges suddenly felt far too close to the truth to be mere fantasy. From this perspective, the causeway isn't just a geological wonder. It's a puzzle, a portal, and potentially a warning. Beneath the interlocking hexagons lies something that challenges the very foundation of science, history, and human understanding. And what Marcus captured that evening was the first clear evidence that this ancient structure wasn't as dormant or inert as anyone believed. After Marcus Whelan uploaded his drone footage, he expected skepticism, maybe a few comments calling it a trick of light. Instead, Dr. Clara Brennan, a geologist who had studied the Giant's Causeway for 15 years, contacted him within hours. She told Marcus the footage either captured an elaborate hoax or something that defied everything known about geology. Dr. Brennan arrived 3 days later with high-tech radar equipment. What she found stunned her. Behind the basalt walls was a hidden chamber, hollow, massive, and perfectly sealed. Sonar revealed a void, roughly 39 feet deep and 26 feet wide, far larger than any natural cavity could survive for millions of years. Inside, 7 upright forms stood between 7.5 and 8.5 feet tall, arranged in exact formation, each spaced 4.6 feet apart, facing the sealed entrance. The most impossible part? The basalt had cooled around these figures, meaning they had been standing there when the lava solidified, 50 to 60 million years ago, long before humans existed. The causeway had gone from a geological wonder to a mystery that challenged every rule of science. The next morning, Dr. Ian Walsh, a geophysicist, confirmed the findings. Density readings showed the figures weren't solid rock. They were hollow, with thin shells around empty cavities. Whatever had once been inside was either gone or had somehow escaped. Authorities were notified. The Environment Agency arrived, dismissing the footage as a light and shadow trick, insisting no chamber existed and that no further investigation was needed. But internally, the researchers were shaken. Dr. Naomi Gallagher, the lead geological consultant, refused to sign the report. Sources said she turned pale reviewing the sonar, left without speaking, and quit the following week. When asked what happened, she only said, "I've seen enough." The area was quickly restricted under the guise of erosion risk. But the reality was clear. Something impossible had been discovered, and it was now sealed off from public view. After the initial discovery, Dr. Ian Walsh returned to the site with more advanced scanning equipment to verify the chamber and its 7 figures. At first, he appeared calm, reviewing the sonar data systematically. But within minutes, the readings confirmed something that defied explanation. The figures were hollow, with thin outer shells surrounding empty cavities. They were not solid stone. Whatever had been inside them was either gone or had already escaped. Meanwhile, Dr. Clara Brennan documented every measurement. The figures remained perfectly spaced, yet their sheer size, between 7.5 and 8.5 feet, far exceeded any known ancient population in the British Isles. Calculations confirmed the impossible. These forms had been sealed inside solid basalt for 50 to 60 million years, far predating humans. Authorities were notified immediately. A team from the Environment Agency assessed the site, but officially dismissed the findings. They claimed Marcus's footage was a trick of light and insisted the chamber didn't exist. Publicly, the story ended there. Privately, the researchers knew otherwise. Dr. Naomi Gallagher, the lead consultant on the government team, refused to sign the official report. Sources say she turned pale when reviewing the sonar and left without speaking. She resigned days later, saying only, "I've seen enough." With public access blocked, the team continued monitoring in secret. Motion sensors, thermal scans, and long-range radar confirmed what no one wanted to admit. The figures were not inert. They radiated heat nearly identical to a living human, and subtle vibrations suggested movement. The basalt wall itself showed no cracks or signs of disturbance, yet the figures inside were shifting, inch by inch. The implications were staggering. Geology, physics, and biology offered no explanations. Hollow, human-sized figures trapped for tens of millions of years, generating body heat and potentially moving inside solid rock. This was beyond any known scientific paradigm. The discovery forced Dr. Brennan and her colleagues to confront a terrifying reality. The Giant's Causeway was not just a natural formation or tourist attraction. Beneath its seemingly ordinary surface lay something alive, ancient, and deeply hidden. And the government's quick suppression of the site hinted at just how serious the situation had become. 4 days after the initial scans, Dr. Clara Brennan returned to the causeway expecting routine results. Instead, the new sonar data shocked her. One of the 7 figures was gone. Every instrument was checked 3 times, every setting verified. Nothing had changed with the basalt wall. The stone door remained sealed. Motion-activated cameras confirmed there had been no movement, no opening, no disturbance. Yet somehow, one figure had vanished from a chamber locked for tens of millions of years. The remaining 6 forms were not stationary either. Their positions had shifted. The precise 4.6-foot spacing was gone. Gaps now ranged from 3.6 to 5.9 feet. It appeared the figures were moving closer together on one side of the chamber, either preparing for something or moving away from an unseen force. Thermal scans added to the mystery. Dr. Ailing Moran recorded temperatures inside the chamber that matched human body heat almost exactly, even though the surrounding rock remained at a freezing 39 degrees Fahrenheit. These readings defied all known physics. A sealed volcanic chamber, millions of years old, containing hollow forms, radiating living warmth. The implications were impossible to ignore. One figure had already left without disturbing the entrance, and the remaining 6 were showing subtle but deliberate movement. The researchers whispered about theories that no mainstream science could yet explain: organic lithification, unknown life forms, or even some mechanism of evolution frozen in stone. The causeway was no longer just a natural wonder. It was a hidden chamber, alive in ways the world had never imagined. And with the 7th figure missing, the question hung heavy in the air. Where had it gone, and what had it become? After the vanishing of the 7th figure, the research team installed permanent sensors near the sealed chamber to track what was happening inside. Over the next 6 weeks, the data didn't just raise questions. It shredded everything scientists thought they knew about the causeway. Vibration sensors picked up rhythmic pulses every 4.7 seconds, a low-frequency thrum that rattled the bones even before machines registered it. Dr. Ian Walsh described it privately as a slow, sleeping heartbeat, though he carefully avoided putting that in official reports. The chamber, sealed for millions of years, seemed alive. Thermal readings were equally baffling. On some days, the internal temperature matched the frigid North Atlantic conditions. On others, it spiked without warning, sometimes exceeding 104 degrees Fahrenheit. There was no volcanic activity, no geothermal vent, and no plausible explanation for heat rising from solid rock. Yet the hollow figures inside were generating warmth, almost like a fever breaking in total darkness. And then there was movement. Every 72 hours, long-range scans showed the forms inching toward the stone door. Not sudden jumps, not mechanical shifts, but slow, deliberate crawling. Some researchers whispered about organic lithification, the idea that these figures weren't statues at all, but a form of life combining silicon and carbon in ways humans couldn't yet comprehend. Others suggested something even more unsettling, that the causeway itself was part of an ancient system, a subterranean engine finally beginning to stir. Dr. Brennan compiled all the readings and sent her report to the university board. It was rejected within a week. Officially, her findings were dismissed as calibration errors and sensationalist interpretation. Behind closed doors, however, she learned the real reason. Publishing the data could reveal phenomena society wasn't ready to confront. Minute gravity shifts, the thermal anomalies, and the moving figures were too disruptive to the accepted understanding of physics and geology. By late April, the sensors were removed, funding pulled, and the area declared unsafe. NDAs sealed the researchers' lips, yet the evidence remained. Encrypted hard drives, thermal readings, and motion data quietly documenting something living, breathing, and moving beneath the surface. As the anomalies became undeniable, the government stepped in. The section of the Giant's Causeway containing the hidden chamber was officially cordoned off, labeled geologically unstable, and public access was blocked. Tourists and casual observers were told the fencing was for safety, but those involved in the research knew the truth. This wasn't about falling rocks, it was containment. The researchers were ordered to stop fieldwork. All high-tech sensors were removed, equipment was confiscated, and funding for further studies was abruptly withdrawn. Non-disclosure agreements were signed by everyone on the team, legally binding them to silence. The warnings were subtle but unmistakable. This mystery was now tightly controlled, hidden from public scrutiny. Yet even behind locked gates, the chamber continued to defy explanation. Thermal sensors and vibration monitors, temporarily left in place, had recorded patterns no natural formation should produce. Hollow figures radiated body heat and moved slowly within the sealed basalt chamber. One had already vanished without opening the stone door. Minute localized shifts in gravity accompanied their movement. The implications were terrifying. Something beneath the Earth's crust was actively altering physical laws on the surface. Within the research community, whispers spread. Some speculated the causeway wasn't a natural formation at all, but a massive ancient structure, a cooling fin, an engine, or a containment system created by an unknown intelligence. Others feared that the figures weren't prisoners waiting for release, but emissaries of a force beyond human comprehension. Despite the secrecy, some evidence survived. Marcus Whelan's drone footage was safely backed up on encrypted drives, and Dr. Brennan preserved her raw data in secret digital vaults. These records quietly confirmed what official statements denied. The chamber existed, and the entities inside were alive in some form, moving and radiating warmth against all scientific expectation. Now the causeway appears serene to the casual visitor, a scenic wonder of hexagonal basalt. But behind the fences and warning signs, the reality is far darker. A chamber sealed for 60 million years is quietly awakening. And while authorities have contained it, for now, the question remains: how long before the door opens again, and what will emerge? The disappearance of the seventh figure sent a chill through the research team. If it could leave a chamber sealed for tens of millions of years without disturbing the stone door, what else was possible? Some speculated it had simply moved into the modern world, walking unseen among humans, wearing a familiar face to blend in. The thought was terrifying. One of these ancient beings, free, fully active, and potentially observing the world quietly. Meanwhile, the remaining 6 figures were slowly inching toward the stone entrance. Their movements were deliberate, measured, and strangely coordinated. Were they approaching to reunite with the 7th figure? Were they preparing for something the world could not yet perceive? Scientists struggled to interpret what they saw. Thermal sensors and vibration monitors indicated warmth and pulses consistent with a living organism, yet nothing about these beings aligned with known biology. The implications were staggering. If these entities were alive and mobile after 60 million years, our understanding of life, geology, and the evolution of the planet was fundamentally flawed. The causeway might not be a simple volcanic formation, but part of an engineered structure, a containment system, or even a warning mechanism left by an unknown intelligence. Every observation challenged centuries of scientific certainty. Philosophically, the discovery forced a deeper question. What else might be hidden in plain sight? If a chamber like this could exist beneath a popular tourist site, sealed and undetected for millennia, how many other mysteries were being ignored, missed, or actively suppressed? Could humans even comprehend forces or beings that operate on a scale and timeline beyond our understanding? Even within the restricted research circle, fear was palpable. The seventh figure's freedom suggested that the others might follow. And if these beings had intentions, motives, or awareness, what would that mean for humanity? Were they observers, guardians, or something else entirely? The causeway, once considered a peaceful geological wonder, had become a doorway into a reality too vast and dangerous to fully grasp. One certainty remained. The countdown had begun. The seventh figure had already entered the world, and the remaining six were moving steadily toward the surface. The question now was whether anyone would be prepared for what would emerge when the stone door eventually opens again. The giant's causeway may look peaceful, but beneath its hexagonal stones, six figures shift slowly toward a sealed chamber, and one has already vanished into the modern world. Hollow, ancient, and inexplicably warm, they defy science and history alike. What will happen when the stone door finally opens again? And what has the seventh figure been doing while free among us? The truth remains hidden, preserved on encrypted drives and secret data vaults. One thing is certain: the countdown has begun, and when the barrier yields, reality itself may change. Stay alert.